Tachikawa, Japan. This was an old Japanese Air Force base during World War II. And when I initially got there, the housing was in an old Japanese officer's BOQ, Bachelor Officers Quarters. And these were rather nice. There was two people there, two separate bedrooms, and it had a large Japanese bath, which was wonderful. You could fill it full of scalding water and enjoy soaking in there. It also had a shower too. But for food, there was a civilian club there. Now, for the cost of this was minimal. It cost you $4 a month to join the civilian club for food, but they also included a free steak dinner every month. So that really was kind of a free deal. The bar was also an interesting thing. For normal prices, it was 25 cents for a mixed drink or a beer. However, during happy hour, they were half price, which would really make any alcoholic happy. The dining room was staffed with some nice little Japanese ladies that would serve you and use the Oriental custom of bowing and everything else. And one of them, of course, I enlisted into training me on the etiquette in Japan. We went to tea houses, to some botanical gardens, and this was really a nice learning process. And even I took her to one of the first movies the Beatles did. And this was really in her wheelhouse. Beatles were big over there. And it was kind of weird hearing Japanese singers trying to mimic the Beatles songs. And also the Japanese movies were really interesting. I remember one that I watched when she took me to. It's called The Rice Rustlers of Yokohama Gulch. Well, this was pretty campy, to say the least, but it was very popular there. The other thing that I really enjoyed was the train system. You could set your watch according to the train schedule, and taking that downtown to Tokyo was really interesting. Of course, you had to pack yourself into the thing, but it was a cultural experience, and I'm glad I did it. The ground school for the DC-6s that Southern Air Transport Pacific Division had was rather entailed, and went through that. And then we did flight training down in Okinawa and passed that, and was now released on the line as a first officer in the DC-6. Our routes out of Tachikawa, Japan were governed by the military log air contracts, which required us to fly the Stars and Stripes newspaper, and also we had a section for troops, and we had a stewardess in the back. And we'd fly out of Tachikawa, Japan to Okinawa, Okinawa down to Clark Field in the Philippines, from the Philippines to Bangkok, Bangkok to Saigon, and then Saigon on back. But occasionally, they'd take this DC-6 in Okinawa at Kadena Air Force Base and tow it over to the opposite side of the field. Strip everything off of it, no identification as being American or not. And we'd come out at 2 o'clock in the morning, get on board this thing, and it was loaded with munitions. But before we boarded, we had to leave all our identification in operations. So we were bare naked pilots, I guess you'd call it, and fly at 10 hours down into Southeast Asia with a load of munitions on board it, maintain radio silence for the entire trip, and fly 500 feet off normal airline altitudes so we didn't make a big bang in the sky. In those days, there was very little radar coverage anywhere. So once we offloaded, we did the same thing coming back and flew 10 hours back to Okinawa. We were about 15 to 20 miles out. We'd call the tower and they'd simply clear us to land. And they'd repaint everything back on the airplane and then start flying passengers in stars and stripes again. This was interesting, but I had the desire to go to Southeast Asia. And I kept bugging the chief pilot there. How about I need to get my American airline transport rating and also my Chinese airline transport rating flight test out of the way? Well, there was an old C-46 there, and he relented, and we went out. We got a FAA examiner out of Tokyo, and I took my FAA type rating test, flight test, and also incorporated the Chinese portion of it. And they typed up all of this paperwork. And the minute it was done, I asked to send a Twix, which was a cable or a telegram, to Taipei, to the chief pilot there, and tell him that I've got all of this in my pocket and I'd like to go to Southeast Asia. And he relented. So I went from Taipei, or from Tachikawa down to Taipei. Taipei, they sent me down to Tainan, which is in the southern part of Formosa. And I rode in a twin beach with Paul Quackenbush from there to Saigon. And in Saigon, it was stepping into the frying pan. We had 10 twin beaches and 10 pilots. So within a very short period of time, I was released in the country to fly a twin beach as a captain. And we were servicing USAID people and the occasional embedded agency guy that was in the field. Thank you. I'll carry on later.